and the biggest investment opportunity of our lifetimes, bigger than Bitcoin, oil, and gold, carbon credits.
This is so much bigger than Bitcoin. This is so much bigger than gold, so much bigger than the copper market. In fact, this is going to be bigger than the oil market, which makes up about 5% of global GDP. That's not me saying this. This is the biggest oil company and oil traders in the world who are saying this.
This carbon credits thing, I said, I better pay attention to what he's saying because he sees something there. And if ALC can make me rich, I'm very happy about that. So, Marin, would you explain what carbon credits are?
Sure. So one carbon credit is the equivalent of taking 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent out of the atmosphere. Okay, and it's certified. This has been around for about 20 years. But it was wishy-washy, who certified these credits? What type of projects were they? And this is all coming to now a conclusion after 20 years in something called Article 6, that at COP26 in Glasgow, which, the name of the city is almost ironic that it's the dear green place, that what the Paris Accord and, COP21 in Paris in 2015, all these promises that the governments made now in 2021 in Glasgow, they're going to be legislated, they're going to become law. And the investors are catching on to this. And more importantly, Shell, Exxon, BP, they're all in the market trying to figure out how do we buy this, because we know this is where it's going. And this is the one thing that if you're watching this video and you're like, okay, obviously if you're watching Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you already want to have more in life. You want to do better. You want to improve your financial situation. And I believe personal freedom through financial independence. That's been a thing. Like I grew up with immigrant parents. We didn't have much. We had a lot of love, incredible family, but I didn't start out with much. But this is an opportunity. Anybody watching this, whether you're me or the person watching this, we're all on the even foot when it comes to carbon credits, whether you're in Moscow or in Africa, Argentina, you're in Brazil, anyone with a will, there is a way to do this. And you don't need, to be worth billions of dollars to get into this, where, if you want to buy a gold mine, it's going to cost you a lot of money to buy this thing and develop it and the equipment.
We know about that.
This is a different game.
So how are the carbon credits created?
Sure. So
who creates this?
So let's just say one of the world's most famous carbon credit projects, I'd compare it to the old Homestake gold mine in South Dakota, was something called Rimba Raya, which was originally slated to be clear-cutted for a palm oil plantation, right? Kit Kats. And all this palm oil demand that globally in North America and China was requiring. Well, that's going to have huge effects from a biological standpoint, from chimpanzees to monkeys to just the whole biosphere aspect. So what happened was a group came involved and said, hey, don't chop this down for palm oils. We are going to use this as a project to protect and inhabit the potential to grow the trees and maintain these trees, so there is no deforestation, to be able to absorb the carbon out of the atmosphere. And you can calculate that, and it's certified by a company called Verra. Think of Verra as like the PricewaterhouseCoopers of accounting world in the carbon credit world. And the company that bought that, PwC, Delta Airlines, Google, Facebook, all of these global companies have recognized this as like the prime Homestake or the Gold Strike, the tier 1 asset. So now Delta Airlines, when you go on a flight, Robert, you and I were talking about this on your last flight, when you go even book a flight on Google Flight or whatever, it has the price and then it has your carbon footprint. And now the airlines have committed to offsetting their carbon footprint. So that's how you go and create carbon credits. You have to have a project and you have to have something called additionality factor. What are you doing to this project to prevent the deforestation? And by having this carbon credit certified, that you're adding value to the whole system, that you have to be certified. So it's not like you just go to Central Park and say, I'm going to get carbon credits from this. You have to prove there's an additionality factor. So, was it going to be clear-cutted or whatever? So then you take those credits and then you can sell them to companies like Shell, BP, Exxon. So just to put this into perspective, there's about 200 million tons of carbon credits that are going to be certified this year in 2021. If Shell and Exxon wanted to just offset to meet their new board commitments, like they've been legislated, they have to do this, just those two companies would purchase over 100%. There's not enough carbon credits. So Larry Fink just came out. And the last time I was on your show, I said, the first trillionaire is going to come out of this, the first, unicorn trillion company, and these uber wealthy individuals are going to be the ones who solve this climate issue. Larry Fink is saying it. BlackRock just announced new funds to get into this. It is the new, this is so much bigger than Bitcoin. This is so much bigger than gold, so much bigger than the copper market. In fact, this is going to be bigger than the oil market, which makes up about 5% of global GDP. That's not me saying this. This is the biggest oil company and oil traders in the world who are saying this. Well, let's take all the other oil companies. Exxon, our internal numbers show about $25 billion of write-downs. Shell, same thing. So all these oil companies are sitting there going, oh crap, all these pension funds who've invested with us because of our dividend and our value, when you write down, that's a huge significant devaluation.
And when you say write down, it's basically you're taking the value of your company and decreasing it. Now what happens on debt covenants? These companies have incredible high debt. So the derivative effect, right, that happens in the bond market and all the debt covenants get breached because you have to have a certain price to your book value and all these covenants that you can't violate off of your debt. There's a new black swan coming here. So what are these oil companies going to do? They have no choice but to go into the carbon sequestration market, which is a carbon credit market, the offsets, and buy certified credits that can offset that pollution because it's way cheaper for them to fund the sequestering, the taking out of carbon out of the atmosphere than to shut down their oil production, right? As we're transitioning from a fossil fuel energy world to a green world, there's something called reality in the middle that we have to do this transition. And without carbon credits, there is no transition. 3 types of carbon credits that you really need to focus on. There's blue carbon, and blue carbon are aquatic or ocean credits, water credits. And why I believe the blue carbon credits are going to be the most valuable and the largest upside for investors is like gold. It's a lot harder to find than silver or copper. So it's worth a lot more. But the impact from an environmental standpoint, for example, 1 square mile of mangrove forests or ocean credits absorb 10 times more carbon out of the atmosphere. So you get 10 times more carbon credits than the same plot of land in a forest. So you get 10 times more there. But interestingly enough, also the biodiversity effect, because you got it on land and underwater, you have a 10 times larger effect in the biodiversity factor, from the algae to the coral, to the turtles, to the bird sanctuaries involved. And what's going on right now in the mangrove forest, a lot of people aren't talking about it, but it's getting deforested at a greater rate than the Amazon rainforest. Right. Everybody's talking about the Amazon rainforest, and it is horrible destruction what's going on there. But for whatever reason, everyone's being hush-hush about the mangrove forest being deforested because that most of the shrimp you're getting from your grocery store or eating in your sushi rolls are coming from these deforested mangrove areas. So that's why blue carbon credits are going to be worth so much, and they are in the market right now. They're the most valuable credits. Then you have green carbon credits. So think of those as green, forest on land. And then you have white carbon credits, which are the air credits, the airline credits, or the energy fuel switching credits. If you have a utility that used to produce energy from coal and they're switching to, say, wind farm, they're going to get a carbon credit for that difference because they're not emitting pollution out of the atmosphere. So there's blue, green, and white carbon credits. So go to carboncredits.com, educate yourself. Rather than binging on Netflix, empower yourself, because there's nothing, being rich ain't going to make you happy, but it's going to get you pretty damn close to that boat that says happiness.